Thank you, thank you. It's okay. It's nothing. We didn't really talk about anything important. Okay, so for the people that just started watching this because I just started recording, we just went over what we're gonna do today. So these are the login pages that we're gonna build. Uh, these are basically the different elements on the screen. Okay, so now let's keep going. UIStackView, right? Okay, so back to StackView. Um, so you guys should be relatively familiar with StackView. For those of you that took 342, but if not, it's basically a way for the layout system to automatically arrange your views along a certain axis. So it can either be vertical or horizontal. And the great thing about StackView is that let's say you have two views. You don't have to worry about anchoring the bottom of the top view. Sorry, you don't have to worry about anchoring the top of the bottom view to the bottom of the top view in order to keep them kind of vertically next to each other. For stack view, you just add them into the stack view. It's called add arranged subview. And that would basically take care of all the arrangements. And it has various options for alignments and distributions and spacing. So when you're creating a stack view, you basically only have to worry about four things, but they're all really equally important. So the first one is basically the axis, which direction, right? So that's pretty obvious. It's either vertical or horizontal. And then you also want to um, to tell the stack view what's the cross direction alignment. And what I mean by that is, let's say you have a vertical stack view that stacks elements vertically. um, but you have everything vertically stacked one beneath the other. That's good. But what about the horizontal position? So this alignment is basically the cross. I should call it cross axis actually. So it's a cross axis alignment. So let's say what you just said, vertical stack view with three elements. And then for the alignment, you can define center, which would horizontally center the elements, or you can define left, which would left align the elements horizontally. But it doesn't affect the vertical axis, so that's why I call it cross direction or cross axis. So it all makes a lot more sense when we get to coding it. I just wanted to walk over this first. And there's also the subview distribution, right? So do you want to fill the different subviews along the axis? So let's say a vertical again. Do you want to make each subview take up an equal amount of space? Or do you want them to have an equal amount of spacing in between? Or you want it to just fill it and use their intrinsic size? Or do you want to fill them proportionally? Or you want to fill them equally? So there's I think there are 5 options that we're gonna try out and get to see which one works best for us. And usually when you're doing stack view, usually the default fill is good enough, but depending on what you want, you can also try the other distributions. And lastly, you can define some spacing between the subviews, right? So you can define, let's say I want each subview to have a 10 pixel gap in between, or sorry, 10 point gap in between. And you can define that when you declare the stack view. And even better, I think after iOS 11, I think it was after iOS 11, the SDK. So if you have the latest Xcode or Swift 5, it shouldn't be an issue. It should be there. So you can actually specify some custom spacing after a specific subview. So you can actually tell it to override the general spacing setting. And then it's my cat. And then you can tell it to override the general spacing, and then apply a specific spacing just for that subview. It'll make a lot more sense when we get to it. All right, so let's go into Xcode. Everyone have Xcode open? Let's see. Let me grab my stuff. So if you guys don't have the code from last time, that's okay. Go to the week 4 repository and just clone the main branch. That's basically the starter code for today. Do you see my Xcode, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
What's up, Mark?
I'm having the thing. It says like snap no such module snapkit in
Oh yeah, you
before.
have to do a pod install after
Like
you clone it.
okay.
Yeah. If pod install gives you an error, try to do pod deintegrate and then pod install again.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to open the pod file, right? Or the pod file that log.
No. Well, if you have the code from last time, you can just use that.
I just copied it from your repo.
Oh, okay. You're supposed to go to terminal, navigate to the project root directory, and then do a pod install.
You have done that part.
Oh, you already did it?
Yeah, just do I just
Okay,
open up?
then just open up the Xcode workspace file. The white one, not the blue one.
Oh, okay. I opened the blue one.
Yeah, it should be the white one. Quit Discord.
Okay. Yeah. Oh wait. So after still no so pod install and then pause and then what's the command again?
Which one? Which one are you looking for?
So I've done pod install and then I'm trying to get and then it still has no such module snapkit. I'm
So open up. Did you open up the blue file or the white file?
the white file.
Okay. Do a command B real quick. Does it still complain?
Build failed.
Interesting. Okay. Let me enable screen sharing. So share your screen, and we'll see what's wrong with it.
Let me open Zoom on my Mac.
Oh, okay. So you're on a separate. Wow. Flexing. You have two different computers. Okay.
Well, like, cause you know, I don't have an M1. My Mac isn't fast.
All right. In the meantime, wait. I have to enable. Okay. In the meantime, let me. Yeah, so we'll see if we have time, then we'll get to Firebase. If we don't, then I think this login stuff alone is a pretty good chunk of material.
Okay, so let me share screen.
Okay, so click on the no account error. Oh wait, yeah. Okay, so first click on the very top, where it says any iOS device.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to.
Yeah, I'm getting that error too.
Oh yeah, I think I know why.
Why is that? That's the same
Because
thing we said last time, right?
I think because I'm on an M1 or something like that.
Mm.
That's weird. It's never happened before. Okay, so do you guys have the file from last time though?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, just use. It's literally the same thing.
Okay.
There's no difference.
Right.
That's weird. That's really weird. I've never had that happen.
Oh, Xcode should have a way to duplicate projects.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. Actually, to be honest, it never happened when I was taking 401 last semester. When I was working with other people. But then I wasn't on my M1. I was on like the Hackintosh laptop.
That might be it, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. That would be like a huge oversight. Or maybe I just don't know how to export stuff correctly. All right, let me go. Let me know when you guys are ready. Let me share my screen again.
Yeah, I have the old code up and running.
Is the old one working?
Yeah, the old one works fine.
All right, cool. That's good. Oh, jeez. All right. This looks pretty familiar, right? So this is our view controller from last time. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we did this thing. So we're actually not going to use this view controller, but we're going to keep it because the setup here, we already have something, all these set up, right? So we're going to reuse that, right? So the first thing that we want to do is, if you guys remember me saying a while ago, before we do it, because we're doing things programmatically and not with a storyboard. So by default, each new view controller actually has a blank background, which is a black background, right? So we'd have to do like a view.background color equals white or equals dot system background instead. But we don't want to do that every time. So why don't we use the power the power of inheritance? So let's create a new file here. Do you guys see my screen moving? I'm super paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay, do you see this
Yeah,
pop up?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. All right, so we want to create a view controller that's like the base of all of our other view controllers. So let's call it base view controller, and it's a subclass of UI view controller. Just click next, and then create. And in here, let me delete all these. In here, we want to do something. We don't even need this actually. In here, all we want to do is just set the background color to like the system background color. And someone remind me why do we shit. Someone remind me why do we not want to do this?
Isn't it because of if you change it to like night mode or something? Or?
Yes, exactly. So if you do dot white, just hard code it to white. But if you do dot system background, it's reactive to your dark mode settings. So it will actually turn black when you turn on dark mode. All right. So that's all. That's literally all we have to do here. In the future, we might add more things, but for now, let's just do it this way. So all this base view controller does is it sets the background color. But in the future, when we create new view controllers, we can just inherit from this base view controller, and then we don't have to do this step every single time. And let's say in the far future, let's say we want to somehow alter the system background color. We only have to change it in one file as opposed to every single view controller in our program. So I think that's pretty good. All right, so let's create. Let me know when you guys are finished doing this.
Give me a second. I'm like duplicating the project.
Oh my gosh. I don't recommend it because it might.
I'll do it like get it ahead next time though, because I kind of want to have it separated to like. I don't know. It's just me.
Or you can just. It could be different commits. You can just roll back.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. But I'm like almost done.
Buchi, about you? Almost done.
Yeah, I had to go a step away, so I'm trying to figure out what I missed. It's a new file, right? Like,
yeah, it's a new file. So it's a new file that inherits from UI view controller. All it does is to set the background color, just so that we don't have to repeat it for every single view controller that we create in the future.
Okay. Cool.
It's a pro gamer move.
Well, what's foundation?
Oh, foundation is like the Swift language, just the language, no frameworks, nothing. And anything UI related, you need UIKit.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like the difference between I want to say Dart and Flutter, but you know it's true, but you guys don't know about it. Yeah, when I think about this, I don't think we ever use any frameworks in any of our CS classes, so it's hard to explain. Yeah. All right, let me know when you guys are done.
Like one more line.
Yeah.
It's making more sense though. Very slowly though.
Huh?
So it's making more sense. Like, like the first.
Yeah, definitely.
Like why we do what we do. Like I think it's the best way to learn is through actually just coding and.
Yeah, and you got to build something non-trivial, so at least it doesn't look terrible. So you're not ashamed to show other people that you did it.
All right, but yeah, I'm good. I'm good on my end.
Yeah, I have it.
All right, cool. So let's create a new folder because I like to stay organized. I'll just call it onboarding, or new group rather. And then in the group, let's create a new file. It's a Cocoa Touch class. And this time, instead of subclassing from UI view controller, let's do it from base view controller. And let's call it sign in view controller. And just click finish. Oh, yikes. Let's rename this. All right, do you guys have it?
I remember it's our first time doing this.
Yeah, no worries. Let me know. I think Newegg is dropping a lot of 3070s. If anyone wants to grab them right now.
What I want to do is I want to add all of these numbers, or I want to add these two numbers together. I want to add 35, 27, or another way to think about it.
Can you rename files in Xcode?
Yeah.
You just right click? It's not letting me. I'm not finding it when I right click.
You can just hit enter.
Oh.
Yeah.
5 ones here and 7 ones here.
I can hear something playing in the background, by the way.
Yeah, that's my sister's Khan Academy.
I see.
I can mute myself.
Yo, for some reason, I don't know why Khan Academy loves uploading 360p videos.
I mean, was it a lot of them like a long time ago and they just reuse it though?
Yeah, I think so. All right.
Khan got me through high school and college, man. What do you mean?
It's good. It's just kind of blurry. All right, let me know when you guys are finished doing this.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
I'm good too on my end.
All right, cool. Okay. So let's make our stack view, right? And as we said before, 4 things, right? The axis, the alignment, the distribution, and the spacing, right? So let's declare it with the closure. If you guys don't remember how to do it, stack view, and then here's the type equals open parentheses, and don't forget this thing because we're not storing this closure, we're calling it and using the return result. Right. Wait, actually that's a good point. So you see here when I just typed out this closure, it says cannot convert value of type, the specifically type void, into closure result type of UIStackView. So it basically means it's expecting a UIStackView on the right hand side, but we're giving it a void, which makes sense because we're not returning anything. So, but if we type this in, our closure now returns a UIStackView and the error just goes away. And if we look into the UIStackView initializer, you can see a few things. So these coder stuff, you don't have to worry about it. These are for storyboards. A frame, again, it's universal among all the UI view elements almost. And this is interesting. So this is called arranged subviews. So you are given an option to add in all the subviews that you want when you're initializing the stack view. So you have an option to add in all the elements that you want to have in the stack view right when you initialize it, as opposed to adding it later. But right now we don't have anything else, so we're just going to use the empty initializer. Right. So we talked about 4 things, right? So we talked about access, alignment, distribution, and spacing. Let's do access first. So this login screen, let me bring this thing back. So this login screen, you guys can see. Do you think we need a vertical stack view or a horizontal stack view?
Horizontal.
Horizontal is like left to right.
Vertical.
Vertical, there we go.
Easily.
So we need a vertical stack view. So let's do, by the way, it doesn't matter what you name your variable to in the closure. It only cares about what you return. So you can name it to whatever you want. You can name it to whatever you want. So let's do sv.access. And you can see that it takes in a NSLayout constraint.access. And actually just type dot and it's going to give you 2 options. Horizontal or vertical. In this case, we want to do vertical. And I really wish a lot of other languages has such a powerful kind of enumeration or whatever. Like you don't have to type in NSLayout constraint.access.vertical. But I know you have to do that in Flutter, which is very annoying. I don't know if Alan agrees. But in Flutter, you have to type out the whole thing instead of just dot whatever. Because I don't think you can infer like the type or whatever stuff. All right. So after the access, let's talk about what's next. The alignment for the cross section. So let's check out what's available, right? So it's just alignment equals, and you can see there's center. So it aligns everything to a center. There's fill. So it stretches everything because our stack view axis is vertical. So fill basically means horizontally. It's going to stretch everything sideways. I'm not sure what these are, first and last baseline. Leading, so basically everything to the, not the left, yeah, the left or the right, depending on the language, and trailing is the other direction. Bottom's bottom and top is top. But bottom and top are not applicable here because our stack is vertical. But if our stack is horizontal, then top and bottom will work. But leading and trailing wouldn't, because our stack is already horizontal. So the main stack is organizing the position. And you can see in the documentation here, so leading and trailing, it says a layout for vertical stacks, Bottom and tops layout for horizontal, Right now though, you can see, you might think that we should choose center, but I'll just tell you that we should do fill, because if we do center, then we have to go in and manually set like the width anchor for each element to be kind of as wide as the screen. But if we just do fill, it just fills it horizontally, and in that process, it automatically centers everything. So in this case, let's just do fill. And next up, there's also distribution. Let's not worry about distribution right now. We'll talk about it after we get the elements in. And then, actually, let me get rid of alignment too for now, so I can show you. And spacing we can do later. So right now, let's just have the bare minimum, just the axis. All right. So let's go back to the slides. So right now, all our stack view does is arrange subviews vertically, and that's it. We're not telling it to do anything else. So all the other behavior is just default behavior. Okay. So let's skip this for now because we're not going to use it. So let's get to because we want to add stuff, start adding stuff into the subview. And the first thing that we're going to add is this title, focus title here. And you see that I said it uses a UI label combined with an attributed string. So let's talk about NSAttributedString. So an NSAttributedString, it takes in the constructor, the initializer that we're going to use, takes in 2 parameters, the string and attributes. So the string is just literally what's the content that you want to display. And the attribute is how you want the content to look like. And the attributes parameter actually takes in an array and a dictionary of NSAttributedString.key to any. So it might look really confusing at first, but just know that it's just the name of the setting mapped to the value of the setting, or rather, the value of the setting mapped to the name of the setting. You know what I mean. So let's say, for example, for the name, you can have, for the setting name, you can have NSAttributedString.key.font. So it means that we're trying to set the font, and the value will just be like some UI font.system font. So I'm just using the system font of size 30, right? And some UI elements, like UI label, or so UI label has an .attributed text property. UI button also has it, and then UI text field has attributed placeholder setting. So a lot of places use attributed text, but it's gonna make a lot more sense once we start implementing it, and you guys will see how it works, right? So let's go ahead and just create a UI text field and add some text, and then we'll see how it works. Okay, so let's do it here. Let's call it attributed title label, and it's of type UI label. And of course, just create a label and then return it so it doesn't bother me with the warnings. All right. So as I said earlier, let me know if I'm going too quickly. So as I said earlier, the UI label has a .attributed text property. So you can see that .attributed text. You can see that you can give it an NSAttributedString. So that's what we're going to give it. And you see that it has a bunch of different initializers. They're all like different options, but for now we're going to use this one, the one that we talked about here. So string and attributes, right? String attributes. So the string is literally what we want to display. In this case, just focus. All right, it's just like whatever string that we want to display. And then for the value, it would be, for the attributes, it would be, we want to modify two things here, right? If we look at the screenshot, we want to modify the font because you see it's significantly bigger than the other fonts. And also we want to modify the spacing in between so it has this aesthetic look, right? So the first thing, font, we have it here. The second thing is called kern. So let's just go ahead and let's do it together. So the first one is NSAttributedString.key.font, right? And then that's the key. The value would just be UI font.system font, because I think the system font looks pretty nice. And the size would be 30. You can experiment with different sizes. You don't have to follow me verbatim for this one. It's all down to aesthetics. I just chose 30. There's no reason for me to choose it. All right, so that's our first attribute. So let's not add in the second one for now. Let's make everything show up on the screen so that we can show things as we go. So again, of course, our trusty init UI function. Let's make it. And in init UI, all we want to do is add this to the stack view, and add stack view to the view controller's view, and apply the constraints to stack view, because you don't need constraints for UI label to this label because stack view manages it. It's the whole point of stack view. You don't have to deal with individual constraints. All right. So in order to do that, we're going to use snapkit again. But because we're going to use snapkit as a universal framework, it would be very annoying if we just did import snapkit in every single view controller, right? Instead of that, we can actually import it globally. It's not encouraged to do so, but like in this case, I think it's pretty justified because we're using it almost in every single file. So let's go to app delegate. You can do it app for scene delegate. You can do it wherever, but I just prefer to do it in app delegate, right? So this is usually how you import stuff in one page, in one file. To do it globally, you do @_exported, and then import snapkit. So this is how you import stuff globally across the entire project. So now if you go back to our sign-in view controller, see, although we didn't import snapkit over here, we can still use it. So let's do view that at view that as subview stack view, and let's do stack view dot. You see, snapkit is working here because we imported it globally. So that's a good way to save some code. People have mixed opinions on that, but I think it's worth it in this case. So because, well, the argument is if you use something in one file but you import it globally, it's going to be difficult to look for dependencies. But in this case, we literally use snapkit almost in every file, so I don't think that's an issue, right? So for this stack view, we just want to constrain it. We want to make it full screen. We want it to take up the entire screen. All right, so let's just do make top margin. And the reason why I'm doing top margin instead of top is because top margin actually takes the safe area, something called safe area layout, into consideration. I forgot if we talked about this in 342, but safe area layout is basically the extra bit of notch on the new iPhones. So if you ignore that layout, your content's gonna get blocked out by the notch. But the safe area basically, if you use a safe area layout, the system automatically kind of adds some padding to where the notch is, so your stuff doesn't kind of get behind it. So that's why we're gonna use top margin. And don't forget, and also bottom margin, same thing, like the little for iPhone 11s and whatnot, this little thing, because we don't have a home button, that's also a safe area. And also remember last time we talked about how snapkit were able to chain those constraints, so we don't have to do .top margin equal to superview .bottom margin equal .leading .trailing, so we can just do it all together in one go. So top margin bottom margin leading margin trailing margin equal to superview. So this basically makes stack view full screen, quote unquote.
Can you go over the change you made in app delegate one more time? Just missed that.
Yeah, so this is basically importing snapkit globally in every single file. So we don't have to do import every single time. So it's @_exported import snapkit. All right. Mark, Bushi, how are you guys?
Pretty good.
Following along. We're trying to, at least.
Let me know if I'm going too quickly.
That's making sense. It's just a lot, but it's making sense.
Yeah, things to type out and whatnot. Yeah, but isn't this like 2 million times better than whatever junk we had to do in our first class, if you guys remember?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's starting to all kind of make sense together.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna keep going. So we added our stack view to the view. It's still gonna be empty. Can someone tell me why?
We have to declare it somewhere, because right now it's just like there.
Well, we did. We added it and we constrained it. But what's the issue here? We're missing something. It's not a trick question.
Wait, init UI isn't called though.
You're right. It isn't. I forgot about that. Besides that, there's still an issue. It still won't show anything right now. And why is that? Well, it's because we never added this into the stack view. So the stack view is empty. So there's nothing to show. Right. So in order to add it to the stack view, and you have to be careful here. People make mistakes here. So because you know how the way we added the stack view into our view controller view is just view.add_subview. So you think, okay, to add this into our stack view, I'll just do stack view.add_subview, right? but
it's not a view, right?
it is a view. It
Oh.
is a view. A UI label is an UI view actually.
Okay.
But the problem is if you just do add subview, you're not treating stack view like a stack view. It's like you're trying to. It's like you bought a 3090 to play
Minesweeper.
like the 3D pinball or something, right? It's like you're not utilizing the card in the right way. And the same story, like the same thing here. If you just do that as subview, you're just treating stack view as a normal UI view. In order to utilize its kind of stack view capabilities, you got to do add arranged subview. Right, so that would that's like the correct way of adding a view into the stack view. So let's just add that. And that's all we have to do. We don't have to make any constraints for this label because stack view is supposed to take care of it.
So you do add arrange subview because want to utilize stack view as a.
Yeah. So if you just do dot add subview, it's just gonna treat so inside the stack view implementation, there is an array called arranged subviews, and only the views in that array would get the stack view treatment.
Okay.
If you just add it as a normal subview, not an arranged subview, it wouldn't get into the arranged subview array and it wouldn't get the special treatment, like all the alignment and positioning treatment that stack view does.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like you bought a 3090 just to play 3D pinball, right? I mean, you could use a stack view as a normal UIV, but why would you, right? If you're not taking advantage of it. I wanted to say Minecraft, but then I remembered there's Minecraft RTX. So.
Yeah, my fans are running pretty loudly with the shader packs.
Exactly. All right, so now we have a very, very basic thing set up here. But remember, because now if you run this, it still shows our old view because we have to modify our very first view, like what shows here. So for that, we have to jump back to scene delegate. Remember, that's where we kind of did the programmatic UI code at the very beginning. And the root view controller, instead of this old view controller, which is whatever this is, we want to change it to sign-in view controller. And after we do that, if we run this again, it's going to show us our new screen. Do you guys see it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to wait for a little bit for you guys to catch up. Let me know when you also have this.
So can you explain what's base view controller for again? It's just so that we have a system background?
Yeah. Because by default, let me show you what happens if I don't do this. It's just, it doesn't have any background. Because when you're using storyboard, it handles that for you. But now that we're big boys, right? So we handle everything ourselves.
Yeah, I think I'm getting that right now. Like it's just a completely blank screen. So you're saying
is it a black screen?
Yeah, just completely black.
Okay. Do you have the base view controller and this thing?
I have class base view controller, override func view load. Yeah.
All right. So did you inherit from base view or just the regular UI view controller?
Just a regular UI.
Yeah, that's why. It's kind of weird how by default it gives you nothing as a background. I mean, you'd imagine it just gives you the default white background, but
yeah,
I don't know, man.
So I'm trying to add subview. So it doesn't render anything. Is that an expected behavior? Instead of doing add arrange subview, I just want to see like the difference.
Yeah, it won't render anything because if you just add it as a normal subview, you have to define constraints for this thing.
Okay.
And you haven't, so it's just sitting as 0.0. It's probably like out here or something. Yeah, that's expected.
So I see everything, but I don't see focus. Or like I see it with the white screen, but I don't see the focus.
Do you have this line?
Yeah.
Attributed. Yes. I would go over the code though. Let me just look compared to yours.
Did you do init UI at the top?
We can take a look here. You can share your screen.
Init UI?
In like the view did load function at the very top.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. Let's see your code.
Yeah, you don't have init
Oh
UI.
yeah, you
Line
didn't
13.
call. Yeah, you didn't call init UI in view did load. So all your UI setup code was never. Yeah, sometimes it does that. You know, sometimes you forget, so basically see nothing.
Oh,
There we
Yeah,
go.
it just
Oh,
takes
it's
a while
taking a
to-
while. Okay.
It's not M1, okay, Jack? We're not on M1.
True.
All right. Oh, I forgot just how quickly I keep forgetting how quick M1 is.
I think, yeah, you really are.
Even with the screen sharing. All right. So that's that, right? So let's go back to the stack view declaration and let's change something. Let's switch things up a little bit. So remember how we did alignment, right? So let's try trailing. See what that does. As expected, you see it moves it horizontally to the right side of the screen. And if we do center, it centers it, right? Are you guys getting that?
Yeah.
All right. So in this case, though, we want to do fill. Yeah, so for fill, the reason why it's still stuck to the left is because if we actually debug this, if we actually go to the, I don't know what this is called, but you can see that this UI label is taking up the entire screen. Well, because UI label has its own text alignment settings, so see, it has its own settings. So although the label indeed is taking up the whole screen, it has its own internal settings that would determine where the text actually goes. But in this case, we wanted to go to the left, and it is doing that by default, so we're not going to change anything. All right. Let me hide this. Okay. So let me run this again.
I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how we're going to combine all this to make the sign and the login.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so now we have this focus thing here, but we want more spacing between the letters, right? And it's something called kern. So let's type that. So it's NSAttributedString.key. And by the way, after you type .key and you press dot, you can kind of see, so none of these accessibility stuff is relevant, but after that, just see like all the stuff you can do. There's like attachment, background color, baseline offset, I don't even know what that is, vertical offset, expansion, I'm not sure what that is, font, we did that, foreground color, so color the text, kern, which is what we want, it's the spacing between the individual letters, ligature, I'm not sure what that is. My English isn't good enough. Link, I actually don't know what link is. Obliqueness, I don't even know what that is. So you see there's like a lot of stuff that you can change. Shadow, strike through, all that, right? So it's pretty powerful, this thing. And we want to do current. And because it's a dictionary, we do like a, what's this called? Colon? Right?
Colon, yeah.
Colon, yeah. So my English is failing me. I want it to be at 10 because that's what I had. But you guys can experiment with different values. And if we run this again, you can see that the text is kind of spaced out a little bit. Actually, I don't think it was 10. It's more apart. I think it was 20. Yeah, see, now it's more apart. Let me know when you guys get it.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty good, right? So now we have our the text basically taken care of. That's all we had to do. Now it pretty much matches the style here. It's like exactly the same.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And wait, right, okay. So next up we want to do I shouldn't have switched away. Next up we want to do this this email and password text fields. Right, these ones. So before we get into the coding, I want to talk about them for a little bit. right? So for these text fields, we did text fields last time, so it shouldn't be a new thing. But there are a few interesting attributes for text field that we can kind of make use of. The first one is border style. If you guys remember from last time, um, we kind of experimented with the different border styles. Basically, it gives you like different borders, and I think the border called rounded rectangle looked the best. I used another one initially. It looked like we were talking about how it looked like something from like a website 20 years ago or something. But for this time, let's just stick with the rounded rectangle. I think it's very aesthetic. And then there's placeholder, which obviously it's what you have, what it kind of displays in a faint color before you type in anything. There's also the autocorrection type. So you actually have the ability to turn off autocorrect in any specific text field. And we're going to turn that off for our email and password fields. We don't have to do it for password, but we have to do it for email. I'll explain why we don't have to do it for password. We have to do it for email because it's just annoying, for the keyboard to constantly try to correct your email address. Like I know it's not a perfect spelling, so to stop trying to uppercase things, or it's because it's not a word, it's an email address. There's also the keyboard type. Which if you've used apps like any banking app, if you try to send somebody money, when they make you type in the amount that you want to send, in certain banking apps they restrict you to a numerical keyboard. So this is the attribute that controls it. You can make it a regular keyboard, or like a numerical keyboard, or in this case we have like an email keyboard, which basically has like the @ sign at the like next to the space bar, so it's easier for you to type an email address and all that. And the last one is called is secure entry. This is basically what you want. You want to set this to true for your password text field. So it basically just turns everything you type into little dots. And I think it also automatically disables autocorrect, because it wouldn't make sense to still autocorrect but turn your stuff into dots. It doesn't make sense. Right, so that's that. So now let's get back into Xcode and start coding up the two text fields. Right, exciting times. Right, so let's call the first one email text field. Right, and again, return this real quick so it doesn't bother me with the errors. So as we talked about before, border style. See, there are different ones. Yeah, last time I used bezel. It looked absolutely horrible. Line, I think is just the rectangle but not rounded. But we want it to be rounded because we want it to look nice. So we'll choose that. And then placeholder, obviously, it's an email text field, so we'll just say email. And take note, there's also attributed. There's attributed placeholder. And you can so there's even typing attributes. So if you set this to like a certain, let's say you set this typing attribute to have like certain kern. So, and then when the user's typing in, actually their letters will have huge spacing in between. I can show you that in a bit, but let's focus on the other stuff first. So autocorrect type, you can see that there's default. Default, that's basically system settings. No, so disables autocorrection, or yes, enables it. So in this case, we want no because email addresses, they're not properly spelled the majority of the time. And lastly, we talked about keyboard type. So you see there's a keyboard that optimizes itself for URL entry, or just a decimal pad, like a numpad, email address, name phone pad, like a lot of stuff. There's even Twitter, which is interesting. Web search, all that. So in this case, we want to use email address. So it basically just makes your user's life a lot easier. And I'll show you the differences in a bit when we display this text field. All right, so that's about it for our email text field. pretty simple. And all we have to do is just to add it. Email text field. That's it. And if we run this again, let's see what happens.
So then only when we're like adding like our first stack view to like a view, will we use just regular add subview, but then subsequent one,
Yes.
if we're adding something to a current existing stack view that we created, it's better to use add arrange subview due to the constraints we already made earlier.
They're not made. So you have to look at who you're calling the method on. So for the view, it doesn't even have an add arrange subview because it's only for stack views.
Yeah.
So because you're trying to add things into the stack view, that's why we're using the add arrange subview.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, how come it doesn't make the constraints with the margins? I just ran it and like the email is at the bottom. Shouldn't it already like put it close to focus or like have it pretty?
You see, that's something that we have to talk about. So stack view, the way it works is it tries to. So we defined our boundaries, our borders for stack view, right? So basically the entire screen. Let me actually show this. So let me hide this thing. So our stack view is this entire thing, right? And what the stack view tries to do is that it tries to fill the entire space. It tries to fill the entire space with all the elements that you give it. But in this case, UI text field. I think in this case, UI text field has an intrinsic height that focus, but the UI label doesn't. So it stretches UI label, but it doesn't stretch the UI text field. So it's a little bit hard to explain because stack view works in mysterious ways and sometimes.
Are you reading that thing?
Sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm listening.
Okay. So stack view works in mysterious ways, and you just have to experiment with the different distributions. So actually, that's a good idea. Let's try a different distribution. So it defaults to fill, but let's try fill equally. See what happens. You see, fill equally. It feels like it literally just fills equally, right? It stretches the text field to half the height, and then the label takes up the other half. Right, so it just depends on the distribution type. There's also fill proportionally. See what that does. Yeah, so still like an equal divide. There's also equal spacing. See what that does. Okay, yeah. So because there are only two elements and there's only one space in between, so equal spacing, it just pushes everything to the two extremes. And there's also equal centering, which I'm not too sure what that is actually. Okay, right now it behaves the same way because we only have two elements. But you see how the different distributions affect how stack view kind of distributes its subviews. And actually, it's a good time to demo the alignment too, because now you see we have it to fill, and the text field runs from side to side, right? It fills things up horizontally. But if we just change it to like center, see it's super short if you can see it. Right. If we do this, then we have to, if we want our text field to fill up the entire screen horizontally, we have to add more constraints here. So we're just going to use like fill so that we don't have to do that. So, just be smart about how you use stack views, and they can save you a lot of time.
So if we want to have it like separately instead of like being affected, we have to do it outside of the closure.
Where?
So like right now, if we change stack view, right, like alignment or distribution,
Yeah.
then our email text view also gets affected.
Yeah.
Presumably because we're adding stuff into the stack view.
Yeah, because they're both within the same stack view. Yeah.
So let's say I want attributed title label to be fill, but I want email text field to be centered.
Mm-hmm.
So how would I go about doing that? Do I just do tf dot distribution?
Well, you can put them in two different stack views and put those two stack views in the stack view.
Okay, so I have to create
Or
another
something.
stack view first.
Yeah, you can nest stack views like horizontal or vertical. You can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Just be mindful that stack view is slightly more expensive than regular views, but it's not like your phone's gonna slow down or anything. It's not noticeable, but just so that you know, it's more expensive than doing constraints by hand. But it saves you so much time, so I don't want to do it by hand.
Just tell them to get a new iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem
Just buy a new iPhone, exactly. All right, so we did that. So we had our email text field. So now let's move on to our. Actually, yeah, I meant to show you this. So remember how we did so autocorrection type and keyboard type. So you can actually see this keyboard is an email keyboard. It has the @ sign here and the dot here. So it's very convenient for typing in emails, right? And also we get no autocorrect, which is very good. But if I change it to like number pad, you can see that the keyboard is going to be different. See, now it's a numpad. So you can decide what to have here. I'm not sure what URL is actually. Let's see what it is. Okay, yeah, you see, so this is more suited to typing in websites, right? There's a slash and there's a .com, right? So yeah, so it's just a convenience thing for the users. Now we're back to email. So right. So now we have the email text field. Let's make a password text field. They generally look the same, so I'll just copy and paste it. So PW text field. Placeholder change it to password. We don't really need this. And we don't have to specify the keyboard type because who knows what they have for the password. But we do need to turn on is secure entry, text entry. Oh wait, I didn't add it. Yeah, we have to add it here. All right. So you see no autocorrect and whatever you type just turns into dots. So that's what the is secure entry does. Okay. And I was going to say something.
Oh,
Yeah.
So as I'm typing out, it shows the letter and then it becomes a dot, right?
Yeah, that's
So
normal.
is there a way for us to enable it, or is that just a system settings? Because I know you can do that in system settings where your password doesn't show up as you type and then turn.
Oh, it doesn't show up at all?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually don't know about that. I don't think you can control it. So this is all the control that you get.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's a system settings. Then.
Yeah, it could be. Also, if you guys look at this, we're going to have a lot more elements, right? Because if you look at the screenshot here, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different subviews that we're going to add into the stack view. And I don't want to do this 6 times. I mean, I already did it 3 times, but I don't want to do it 3 more times. So a good way to simplify things is to just use a for loop. So a for view in, let's just give it an array, basically an array of all the views. And in the for loop, let's just do stack view dot add arrange subview view, right? Still works the same way, just more simplified. And when we have more views, we can just add it here into this array, and this loop will get executed. So you see, everything still looks the same. We just saved ourselves some coding, some typing. And also we can see that email and password, these 2 text fields are stuck together. But in the screenshot, they have some spacing, right? So they actually have 10 points of spacing. And in order to do that, we just do, where is it? Yeah, stack view dot spacing equals 10. And that will add, see, they'll add 10 points of spacing between every element. You can't really tell with this focus because there's so much blank space, but between these 2 text fields, you can see there's 10-point padding, which is pretty good. How you guys doing?
Got it. Done.
Yeah?
It's getting easier to kind of follow along.
Yeah, the further you go, I think the easier it gets, because you start to see the big picture and everything's a pattern. Right. All right, so what do you have next? I actually don't know what we have next because I'm not in presenter mode. Okay, so next up, let's just add a button. This sign in button here, right? So let's add it. Let's just call it a sign in button. Right. And for the button, we're actually, again, this sign in thing, this text is actually attributed text. So it's text with styling. And so we're gonna, it's exactly how we did it up here. We just do it for the UI button. It's literally the same. So b dot, I think, yeah, for this button, you have to set the attributed title. So it's called an attributed title, not just dot attributed text. Yeah, they have slightly different names for different UI objects, but the syntax is mostly the same, right? See, it takes in an attributed string, which I'll do here. And we'll use this constructor. It's the same one that we used above, and we'll just do sign in. And by the way, if you're too lazy to go uppercase, you can just do sign in dot uppercase if you're like that lazy. But you know, it's there for you if you want it. It's unnecessary though. All right, so attributes takes in an array. So two attributes that I'm going to set here. First one is the font. Oh wait, that's wrong place. Dot key dot font. So that's the UI font, that's system font. The size I want to do. Okay, so here's one more trick. If you just want to change the font weight, you see both initializers have it of size, right? So if you just want to change the weight, you have to input the size. There's no getting around it. But you see there's also a system font size variable that you can use, right? So it's just of size. I'll just do UI font dot system font size. It's pretty, I don't know why they didn't make this like an optional argument, but it is what it is. And weight, I'll just do regular. So you might have noticed I did this to do absolutely nothing because I'm using the default font size and default weight and default weight. So this is actually unnecessary, but I'm going to keep it because my solution code has it. And I just realized this entire thing's unnecessary. But besides that, if we look at this, so the sign button, right? We also want it to be responsive to dark mode. And you can see that during light mode, it's white. During dark mode, it's black. So it doesn't behave how the system label is supposed to behave. Because the system label behaves, the way it behaves is that it's black when it's light mode and it's white when it's dark mode. But we want it to be the opposite. So we can cheat a little bit here. I briefly mentioned it last time. So we can actually use the system background color as our font color. So that when it's light mode, the font is white. When it's dark mode, the font's black. Right, so that's just a little trick. That should be the string.key.foreground color. And that would just be UI just dot, you have to do UI color dot system background. And that would take care of that. And the state, there's like a lot of them. Just do normal. Normal is like the most common state. Like you don't have to worry about it. It's gonna be dot normal for like 99% of the time. Yeah. And also, you can see that I'm gonna, doesn't work. Okay, so you see how the background is black? So I had to deal with that. So it's just a simple background color adjustment. And it's also, so this case, it's the opposite of the system background color. So we'll just use the label color. So again, the label is black. So the label is basically the text color. So the text is supposed to be black when it's light mode and white when it's dark mode. So we're just kind of being smart about our color usage here.
And so the line 56,
Yeah.
what color is this setting? The foreground color of the button?
Oh, so you see that as you're typing it, it says to color the text because
Oh, okay.
yeah, because this is an attributed string, right? So we're setting the foreground color for the string, but the string can also have a background color, so that would just be like a rectangle, I imagine, behind the text.
So if we don't specify it, would it be the same?
Well, it defaults to the system default, which is black when it's light mode and white when it's dark mode. But we want the opposite because our button is again the opposite of that. So we're having, yeah, we're just trying to create some contrast here. Aesthetics, right?
Wait, but doesn't
background
as in background
like
is the background color.
Yeah.
Okay. And then B dot background color is for the button, the button's color.
Yeah, exactly. Because like all of these we're setting the text, and this is the button itself. Right. Bucci, how you doing?
There was a lot of NSA attributed stuff, and
yes, there is. We can simplify in the future with a certain plugin, but for now we're not gonna do it because it would just be too confusing.
Yeah. I think. Oh, I didn't put the button, so I'm just guessing we just put B down there for it to display it on line 67. We just in the for loop we have B.
Oh, not B, but sign button. So this B is the scope of this B is within this closure, but we're actually assigning this B at the end to signing button. So yeah, you're right. The next step would be to just add signing button here and see what happens. Let's run it. You see something down there. Very tiny, but it's there.
Why doesn't it look like that? Give me 1 second. Attributed.
What's not working for you?
I'm not getting any visuals.
You want to share your screen?
I was gonna go through your code one more time. But yeah, I can share my screen. I think I know what the problem is. I just gotta.
All right.
Yeah. It's like somewhere right here.
Oh yeah, I think. Oh yeah. So because you didn't set the background for the button, so the text will be white in this case, and the background is also white.
Where's that?
So at line 56.
Yeah.
Do B dot background color equals dot label.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
That's it.
Yeah, and now if you run this, it should work.
Okay. It's just for clarity, like this is just setting it to like different. Yeah, it's there. Just setting it to like different attributes and whatever, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's go. Okay, so we have that, right? But you know, it looks pretty crap compared to this, right? So a few things that we can see that's not right here. So the first one is the height. This one's kind of really short, and the other one's the rounded corner. And the third thing, which is a detail, is this one actually has some shadow. I'm not sure how well it shows over Zoom, but this one doesn't. So it doesn't have any depth to it. So we're gonna add these. So first up, let's add the height to make it a little bit taller. So let's just set it using, let's assign it to a variable. Oh, actually, just do 50. Let's do 50. Right. And let's do this the old-fashioned way, because it's actually faster in this case. This is one of the rare cases where using NS layout constraint takes less code than using snapkit. So let's do button.heightAnchor dot equal to constant, and that's our height. And it's going to complain that cannot convert int to core graphics float. So we just have to explicitly say that it's core graphics float, because so anything that involves drawing stuff on the screen, it has to be of type core graphics float. And again, we have to mark this as is active. So two ways of doing this, right? First one is what I have, and the second one is how we did it last time. So NS layout constraint.activate. So both of these are valid, but this one obviously takes less code, so we're not going to use the first one.
Yeah, gotta look
Now,
at some
if
of
you
this stuff.
remember last time I said something about we can't do this before we actually add this to a view, because something about hierarchies and whatnot. But we are actually so like by the time that the program gets to line 60, we actually haven't added this yet. So we're still initializing the class. So the code hasn't gone to this point yet. But the reason why we can do this is because we're setting it equal to a constant. So there's no hierarchy involved around here. It's literally a constant. So this is totally fine. This is valid. This won't crash the program. But if you try to do like equal to constant view dot something or whatever, it's gonna crash because view hasn't been initialized yet and you haven't added it to the view. So they're not under the same hierarchy. So it just doesn't work that way. Right, so after the height, let's run this actually. See if it's got taller. Yes, it did. And next up, we have to do something called corner radius. And this actually goes into something called, let's go back to the slides, CA layer, right? Yeah, so how to beautify the button, right? I mean, we did the color, but you know, this still looks pretty bad. You know, so if you're a 342 student, then you know this screen already looks plenty good, but we're chads, right? We're not virgins. So yeah, this is being recorded, but you know we're not satisfied with this, so we want to keep going, right? So what we want to do is use something called CA layer, which is we're getting kind of deep into like the drawing of the individual elements. And when we go into CA layer, we can actually add our shadow and add our rounded corner there, right? So we can actually access the CA layer using button.layer. So let me show you here. So it's b.layer. See, core animation layer used for rendering, says here. See, this documentation is so good. Like I think this is like the best. I honestly think Xcode is the best IDE out there.
That's
Like
pretty nice.
yeah, I prefer it equally. Maybe a tiny bit more to like JetBrains stuff. Like I just really like Xcode. All right, so dot layer. So that's the layer. So let's do corner radius first, and then we get to shadows. So corner radius basically controls. You know what a corner radius is. So let's do 10. See what happens. See, it's slightly rounded, right? You see the borders here; they're slightly rounded, but we want it to look beautiful. Oh, wait, that's wrong. We want it to look like this. We want this entire side to be like a semicircle or something, right? In order to do that, we actually have to set our corner radius to half the height. So corner radius basically is so 10. I had 10, so this is 10. 10 basically means this distance is 10 points, right? But we wanted to form a perfect semicircle here. So just divide the height by 12, so the upper corner will take care of the upper half and the lower corner will take care of the lower half. So now let's run this again. It should form a perfect semicircle. There we go. Now we have a good looking button, right? But no, we still have the shadows actually. to do the shadows, again, it's over here. Gosh, just keep switching between these. Yeah, so there's layer.shadow something something something. There's shadow radius, shadow offset, shadow color, shadow opacity, shadow path. We're gonna use the first four. We're not gonna use the last one because I don't know how to do the last one. So I can't teach you something that I don't know how to do. So first it would be the shadow radius. You see, 5 of them. So let's do radius first. So radius is basically how far the shadow spreads. Right. So if I just do 5, if I run this, I'm not even sure if it's going to show. Yeah, it's not going to show because we haven't defined the color and other stuff yet. But just know that this is like the spread of the shadow, right? And next up, let's do shadow. Let's do shadow offset. Let's not do offset. Let's do shadow color. And we want this color to be a black color in light mode, and in dark mode, I don't really care how it looks. Like if it glows white, then it might look kind of weird. So I'll just do like UI color dot black this time. But you see, it's going to complain. It says can assign value of type UI color to type CG color. So CG color stands for core graphics color because, as you recall, this layer is interesting. So it's core animation layer, CA layer. So we're down to like the core graphics, core animation stuff. So we got to give it a core graphics color instead of UI color. So it's really easy, just dot CG color. Yeah, it's a built-in conversion that's really easy to do. Now let's see if anything. Still nothing. Okay. So next up, so we really have to define all of them. So now we have to define the opacity. So how transparent it is. So let's start with 1. So 100%, actually 0% transparency. See, it looks pretty weird. It's floating up. We don't want that. So right now the color, so let me actually increase the radius just to show you what it is. So I'm gonna increase it 9 times. See, now it's a lot more diffuse, right? So it's more spread out, but we want it to be kind of close. But the opacity is too much. So let's just dial it down, just do like 0.5. And this is all like personal preference. Like you can do 0.25, you can do whatever you want. So that's 0.5, right? Now, I don't like this because intuitively you think the shadow would be under something, not above it, right? So let's move the shadow a little bit to the downwards. So that's where shadow offset comes in. So shadow offset, you see it takes a CG size, but this is really just an offset. And because I don't want to offset it horizontally, so the width will be 0. I want to offset it a tiny bit vertically. So let's do how much? Let's do 2, but I'm gonna do like -10 just to show you what it is. So now it should be way up. Yeah, you see? Now the entire shadow is moved way up. I don't want that. I want it to move down a tiny bit. So I'm just gonna do 2. See, now it's kind of, I think it looks pretty good at this point. Right, and again, just a reminder, it's in Swift, or in UIKit rather, the coordinate system is from left to right is the positive x-axis, and top to bottom is the positive y-axis. The y-axis is actually flipped. That's why if we enter a positive number for height, it offsets it downward because downwards is actually the positive direction. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I'm following. I just can't have a shadow. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I'll wait for you. Don't worry.
So I guess my question, like how do you start debugging these things, right? So like right now, I don't see a shadow, right? And looking at my code, everything looks like it's there.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight to that?
Do you have all 4 lines for the shadow?
Yes, shadow radius, shadow color, shadow opacity, and shadow offset.
And it's not showing?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, so these are a little bit more harder to debug. So why don't you just share your screen? Let me take a look. All right, so try to run it, see what happens. Interesting. So let's try something. Try typing in b dot, hang on, what is it? B dot clip to bounce equals false. Clips to bounce, yeah, equals false. See if that fixes anything. That's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at your code. Everything looks right to me. Okay, what if you just get rid of shadow offsets? Oh yeah, -1. That's fine too. That's fine. Huh. That's interesting. I'm actually not sure why that is.
It's fine. We can keep going. It's not that
Yeah,
serious.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not too sure why it's happening. Actually.
No, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Maybe if you wake up the next morning, it'll just be there again. Xcode works in mysterious ways. All right. So that's that for the button, right? So let's go back to the slides. Now there's another thing about the button. It's called add target. So now that we have the button looking all nice and you know whatever, right? But when we click on it, nothing happens. So we want something to happen. Now in storyboard, what you would do is you would command or control drag it onto like a source file and then create like an IB action or something, right? That's how you did it. But now we're doing things programmatically. So let's do a, so we'll just have to use this thing called add target. And let me show it to you. So b.addTarget. And the target, you just do self. So it's basically, I'm actually not too sure what this does, but I've never seen anything other than self being put in this field. So feel free to look at the documentation. I looked at it, I still didn't understand what it was. So, and for the action, so action is basically the selector. So this selector basically calls a function for you. So basically when you press this button, some function can get executed, and then you can trigger something to happen, right? And it's usually, but it must be an Objective-C function. So let me show you what it is, what it means. So let's create it. So let's declare a new function. And again, I'm using this extension because I want to have all my UI stuff in here and all the logic down here in this extension. So let's say func sign in action, right? And let's make it print something. Signed in, right? Very straightforward function. Now the selector, the syntax goes pound key, # selector. It's the Objective-C method. And let's just type in sign in action. See, it's a little bit weird. There's no like parentheses, you're passing in a function, right? For it to execute later because you're not calling the function right now. But you see it says argument of selector refers to instant method, blah, blah. It's not exposed to Objective-C. Add this notation to fix it. So it basically means this selector syntax is a relic from back in the Objective-C times. But your Swift function by default, they're not exposed to the Objective-C parts of the program. But because selector is an old syntax, you need to explicitly expose this function to the Objective-C side of things so that selector can actually work with it. So you see, I just added this notation, add Objective-C, and the error went away. So that's just something you just have to do. There's no getting around it, right? And this for is what kind of event triggers it. And because we're using a button, there's no editing event. It's mostly touch. So you can see there's touch down, touch cancel, drag exit, touch up inside, which is what we want, drag inner, up, outside, all that, right? So if you really want to piss your user off, you can do touch up outside. So every time you touch your screen, that's not the button, it gets triggered. um, I'm not sure why you do that, but yeah. So touch up inside basically means when the user, when the user touches down, but so when the user touches down, it actually doesn't trigger it. But the moment the user lets go, it triggers it. So that's usually how they work, right? If you tap something, but you realize you mistapped, you just kind of keep your finger pressed and then move away and then let go. At least that's what I do all the time. And programs, they kind of respect that. So I like respecting my users and myself. So let's just do touch up inside. That's like the standard procedure. Unless again you really want to piss off your users and get 0 users. All right, so that's all. So let's run this and let's click on the button and see if it prints anything. You see it does. It's printing. So now our button is tied up with an action, tied to an action, which is pretty good. How are you guys doing?
That's working.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going then. So what's next? I forgot.
Firebase?
Oh, that's all I did.
Firebase? Ooh.
Well, okay, not Firebase yet because we're still missing some UI elements. I shouldn't have closed it.
Oh, we're missing the forgot password, right?
Yeah, we're missing that, and we're also, you see, this layout doesn't really look like what we have here. Right, so let's spend the next 20 minutes just to fix this thing.
Such a beautiful layout,
I
email,
know.
password, all at the bottom.
Yeah, and now look at this. This is taking branding. Branding comes first. Wait to the
I
extreme.
know. I've been so excited to learn about Firebase and.
Yeah, but let's just get this. Let's get this working first. So that next time. So next time we get straight to Firebase, and also I might leave you with some. I wouldn't call them homework assignments because it's for your own good, but.
Quote unquote homework.
Quote unquote, exactly.
It's for your own good.
All right, so you see that between sign in and create new account, we have this massive space here, right? So we can actually play the system, and then kind of use a trick to create all the space. So StackView, again, as I said before, it works by basically looking at the individual elements intrinsic sizes and also their constraints if there is any to kind of lay out this entire thing. So whatever UI view, whatever arranged subview that does not have an intrinsic size will get abused the most. So we're just gonna create an empty UI view just to let it to be abused by the stack view. So an empty UI view, it does not have an intrinsic size. So let me go to this slide that I skipped before. So this one. So you see here, this from Apple documentation. Not all views have an intrinsic content size. For views that do, the intrinsic size can define the view's height, width, or height, its width, or both, right? So here's the table. So you see that slider, this is actually, I think this is outdated because the slider on the iOS actually defines both the width and the height. But the label, you see the label, buttons, switches, and text fields, they all have some intrinsic size. Text views and image views, they do not, because text views, I mean, they can grow, they can scroll, all that. Image views, image views also don't because you're displaying a photo. And if you don't define the height and the width, it would just be however big the photo is. But, we don't want to add all that. We just want a simple UI view that literally has nothing in it. But because it doesn't have an intrinsic content size, StackView will first try to stretch it instead of all the other views to make things to kind of make it so that all the elements fill the existing space. So this spacer that we just declared will take all the abuse from UIStackView. So let's try this. Let's just run this right now. Actually, we can't because we gotta add it. Spacer. So it's just a UI view. I've done nothing to it. Let's run it, see what happens. You see? Because it has no intrinsic size. The stack view is just infinitely stretching it until everything else fits, until the entire, all the arranged subview fits like the predefined height or whatever, size, right? Space, right? So we have the spacer. So after the spacer, let's do the create account button and the forgot password button, right? So let's do let create account button UI button equals this, right? So let be, it's so this is just copy and paste almost from what's up there. So it's again, I'm just gonna copy this from my previous code, right? So just setting the attribute title again. The string is create new account, right? And then we want it to be have slightly more weight, so a little bit more bold than the regular font. We also want it to be orange, right? I'm actually not aware of the difference between system orange and orange, but you know, this one has system in it, so it must be better. So yeah, so that's orange right there. And after that, we also wanted to do something. So let's create another Objective-C function. Let's call it, what should we call it? Create account action. Right? It has nothing in it for now. And again, let's do @target self, right? And then selector, that will be create account action, and then touch up inside, of course. All right, so that's it for our create account button. And if we add it to this array here, see, now you start to appreciate this array, right?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, see, we have this nice create new account button. See, so this UI view is taking all the stretching, which is what we want. We want this blank space over here. And then that's our create new account button. So let's do another forgot password button. Forgot. Let me just copy the code I had earlier again. Right. So I have to create this method, obviously. Function. All right. So that should go away. Yep. All right. So again, this is just forgot password. It uses like the default system font color, so I'm not defining it. And then I just want it to be thin. Why? I don't know. Because I said so. So let's add this to our array and run this. You see, now it's down here. But I think there's a little bit too much space between these two, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little bit too apart, right? But remember what I said earlier about how in StackView you can customize spacing. So that's pretty good. I'm not sure if you can do it up here. So the way you do it is just StackView dot set custom spacing. So I want spacing to be 0, and then I want the spacing after this to be 0. So just copy this, just give it this variable name. And now everything else will have 10, but they all have 0. Actually, that's still a bit too much, like -10. Huh. I don't think it's working. I wonder why it's not working. Oh, it's not. I have to do it after I add these, I think. All right, now let's see if it works. Oh yeah. So when I called this before, because it couldn't find this in this internal arranged subview array, so it just didn't do anything. So now you see they're tighter together. They have 0 spacing. Well, 0 added spacing. They still have like the intrinsic size and whatnot. So I can show you. See, right now they're physically pretty close apart. Yeah, they still have some kind of spacing, but you know, that's fine. That's totally fine. Right? So that's good. And we're almost done with this one. But you see here, how come this one, now they look really close now, but see how this one has like so much space here between focus and this text field, and how there's some extra space over here. So we can actually, so I actually did this with another set custom space. So let's do that. So it's just StackView dot set custom spacing, and I think I did 50, yeah. And after the attributed title label, right? So remember how it looks right now, and if I run this again, see there's more spacing here. But you say, what about the spacing over here? Well, for this one, I actually did not use StackView to do it. All I did was I just made it so that it's further, the StackView itself as a whole is further away from the top margin. So just offset by like 50. So now the literal top of the stack view is further away from the top of the view controller. You can actually see it here. So this is the stack view. This space, there's just nothing. I just added 50 points of padding because it's just easier to do it this way than to try to do stuff in the stack view. Because as you saw, stack view is somewhat finicky, and you know, yeah. That's just how I do. That's just how I did it. I mean, you know, for iOS programming, there's no like a single right way to do things. Especially when it comes to UI, there are always different approaches. So feel free to like go off on your own, and as long as it gets the job done, you know, it's a good way to do things. You know, the key point I think is to, you know, in the future when you see a screen like this, you can immediately you just have like terms pop into your head like, okay, this is a label, text fields, button, 2 more labels, and you know, it will be easy for me to use the stack view here. You know, just have that instinct, I think is very important. I think that's it actually.
Wait, so
Yeah.
I have make.top margin dot equal to superview dot offset 50.
Yeah.
But then I get a warning that's unable to stimulating satisfy constraint.
Did you remove
I
top
have to
margin
remove
from
it.
here? Yeah. And again, the reason I'm using margins is because let's try rotating this. You see that it still has a, actually I'm not sure why I use margins. Never mind. I'm not sure why I use margins. But you see, using all layout, you see it still looks pretty good when you rotate the screen. Right? And then this IQ keyboard coming in clutch, although it's a little bit glitchy here, but yeah, it's pretty good, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, my I think I did this wrong.
Yeah.
It ended up going all the way down to the bottom.
All right, share your screen. Let's take a look.
I think I just missed something. We're kind of going a little.
No, you only do offset for top margin, not the whole thing. So
Yeah.
line 93, you don't need the bottom, leading, trailing margin.
Yeah, so line 92, get rid of the offsets at the very end. Yeah. We're only doing the offset from the top, which is line 93.
You only want make.top margin dot offset. You don't need the other stuff.
Yeah, just the top, not the other ones. So keep
the equals superview.
And Esan or Isan, how do I say your name? Sorry. So you had so yeah.
Sorry,
sorry, how do I say your name again?
it's Essen. I like the
Essen. Essen, cool. So Essen asked, if you make the stack view start at -10, could you make the X out buttons unclickable. What do you mean X out buttons?
So if you had a view pop up like on a button, if you had like a view pop up afterward that filled the entire page, if you made that use like stack start at like -10 instead of like, because you started at 50, you started at like a negative number.
Are you talking about like a model presentation?
Yeah, like in ads, or like if you had like an ad, could you make the ad just completely unexoutable?
All right, let's try it actually. Let's try it right now. Present our old view controller. Wait, what's this? I'm not showing my screen. Yeah, let's try this right now. All right, so let's present this. Get rid of this breakpoint. So is this what you're talking about, like this X button or something?
Yeah, just like that.
Okay, so let's make it like negative. Let's make it -50. Not even -10. Yeah, it doesn't affect it because it's a different view controller. Or is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. I just want to know what would happen.
Yeah. I guess nothing. It's just normal because it's a different view controller, so they're unrelated. I guess I'm not sure if that's a good answer.
No, it makes sense. I'm just thinking about like how ads sometimes have like almost unclickable like X out buttons when they pop up.
Oh, I think are you talking about like when they're over here?
Yeah, they're like actually like over the.
Oh yeah, these are like poorly designed. So those apps
Yeah,
are super poorly made, and they do not respect the safe area layout. So they kind of so their top instead of here, which is where it's supposed to be, their top is over here. So that's why the X button's over there. And yeah, once you get under this status bar, it gets pretty much impossible to click because the status bar intercepts its own touch events, and it's above like everything else. So yeah, but a modern presentation would never get affected. So unless they're using like React Native or some non-native library, then if they don't use like the native model presentation and whatnot, then that might happen.
Yeah, I think there's also like there's other presentation modes too, right? You can make it like
yeah, definitely. Yeah, there are other presentation modes. Some of them you have to add your own like X button and then call dismiss and whatnot. Like there's like a full screen one or something. Yeah, we're actually gonna talk about that when we get to Firebase login, how to. But I don't I don't do like a full screen presentation even. I just do like I just directly change the root view controller. Because if you do like a full screen presentation, although like it's true that as long as you don't have a back button, you can't go back. But this login screen would be always in like the stack, in the view controller stack, and it would just take up memory. Although it's not too much memory, and every phone nowadays has like 4 or 6 gigs, so it's not significant. But still, changing root view controller, I think it's a lot cleaner.
That makes sense.
And yeah, I don't think you can change root view controller in storyboards. Because the storyboard, the root view controller is just the initial controller. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's it for today. Bucci and Mark, how are your login screens looking?
It looks like yours.
Yeah.
Yep, got it exactly the way, even the animation.
Mine is a shadow though, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with that. I'm honestly not
Close
sure.
Xcode and reopen it, and then boom, magic.
Clean project. I don't even know actually. Let's Google this.
Yeah, let's also if we can, we should try to figure out how to get your M1, codes to work on our computer.
Yeah, I have to figure that out too.
Let me try it again.
But I kind of like following along with you because then it's helping.
Okay, Bucci, why don't you try this? Button.layer.masks to bounds equals false. If it has that option, let me actually see. Because I don't think. Let's see. Yeah, mask. Yeah, it does have it. So try doing this. See if that helped.
mask to bounce.
Equals false.
Do I still want the clips to bounce?
You can leave that as false. Does it help?
No.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not sure what it is then, actually.
I'll go over your own code and see what it is.
Yeah,
That's
because
fine.
the only two, you see, the only two that control it, it's clips to bounds or masks to bounce, or what is it? Masks to bounce.
It's fine. Like
Yeah, other
I
than
don't
that,
have to
or
visit
try
it.
changing your shadow color to like red, see if it shows.
My shadow color.
Your
Oh,
color to like red, you have black, just try
Yeah.
red. Oh, by the way, guys, run your app, and then on Xcode, you see this button over here, and then click on what? Why is Siri? So click on this button, and then click open this. Look at that.
Is there a way to make the border like more clear, or is that like do we have to?
Oh yeah,
do it
that's
manually?
built in. So if you want to do something about that, you have to implement your own border,
Okay.
which takes some time to do. Yeah. Or, hey, Swift text field board or GitHub.
But Sanjay says only stupid people goes on GitHub.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what about him? Well, I'm not going to say anything because I'm being recorded.
technically, we're done with class.
Huh?
Technically, we're done with class.
We
for
are, so I'm
recording
going to
too.
stop recording. I'll talk shit. All right, how do I stop?